Welcome to the Garderhøj Fortress in Copenhagen, Denmark. My name is Christina and I'm the manager of the fortress, and I would like to give you a quick tour of the fortress, so let's go inside. If you have ever seen pictures or even visited the fortresses around Verdun in France, like Fort Vaux or Fort Douaumont, you will know that they have been badly destroyed during the First World War. Both the fortresses and the surrounding areas are covered with craters from the millions of bombs that hit the area in the Battle of Verdun. Denmark, fortunately, stayed neutral during the First World War. For that reason, the fortifications around Copenhagen were never bombed. They were manned during all of First World War, though, with soldiers who waited and waited for the war to come to Denmark, but luckily it never did. The fortress was built between 1886 and 1892 and was the biggest of the fortifications on land around Copenhagen. It's the only fortress with its own infantry barracks and would fit 400 soldiers in total. Imagine that the whole fortress was dug out and built by hand. It's been a tough job. The fortress is a part of the northern ramparts of the fortification ring around Copenhagen. Most of the fortresses you see marked on the map are still there today, but they're not all in a good state. These women, they all played an important role in raising funds for the fortress. In the 1880s, they discovered that they could have an influence on politics, even though they didn't have the right to vote, which they got in 1915. The fear of sending their sons into a war where they would be defenseless made them start a collection of money to buy cannons like this one. This then inspired the men to join in and make a big collection for buying fortresses to build around Copenhagen. The fortress has 9 cannon towers and 2 observation towers. The towers were bought in Germany and France in the 1880s and contained new technology at the time they were installed. The safety of the soldiers was very important. For that reason, all of the cannons were underground and covered by a steel shield. The 2 75mm cannon towers were installed in disappearing turrets that were elevated from the ground when they were to be fired, and then they went underground again at once after the shot. The large 15cm twin turret from Grusonwerk was the first of its kind to be installed in Europe. The fortress gives you a unique opportunity to experience a fully functional twin turret from Grusonwerk with 2 15cm cannons. You can even try to push the tower into position if you're strong enough. We fire the cannons the last Sunday of every month at 12 o'clock. So come if you want to see that. To help you visualize the cannon towers that aren't functional and the ammunition elevator, we've made an augmented reality app. With that, you can experience how it would have looked when the disappearing turrets were raised in firing position and fired. It's a really good addition to your experience of the fortress. The fortresses weren't the only defense. It was possible to open several dams to create a big moat around Copenhagen. This was to defend from enemy soldiers coming from the north. For most of the soldiers, the day went with physical exercise, digging trenches, and training with the artillery. The soldiers were away from their families, and of course concerned that the war would come to Denmark. The barrack room was the soldiers' dormitory. Back then there were bunk beds, and the bed was shared by 2 people. That means there could be a maximum of 26 people in each room. Can you imagine the smell that must have been there? In the room there are examples of soldiers' private belongings as well. If you've had a long day at the fortress, you can take a nap here. War, of course, is serious business, and even though no soldiers were injured on this fortress because it was never in a real war, in 1864 there was a war in Denmark where many soldiers were injured and had to have their limbs amputated. Therefore, we have a small exhibition about military medicine here at the fortress where you can see lots of different surgical instruments that were used at the time. On the Garderhøj Fortress, we have interactive exhibitions where you can try to train like the soldiers during the First World War, man the cannon tower, use the telegraph to send morse messages, and write postcards with pen and ink. One of the most popular rooms on the fortress is the gym where the kids and adults can train like the soldiers did. One of the weak points for the fortress was that the toilets were outside, so if the fortress was under attack, it would be impossible to get to them. Instead, they would have to use buckets inside the fortress, which can only work for a few days. To get to the infantry barracks, where the kitchen and water supply also was, the soldiers would have to cross the grave as well. The grave was defended by 47mm cannons situated in the caponnières on the front side and the corners of the fortress. It's possible to book guided tours of the fortress all year round. During the tour, you will learn more about the history of the fortress. The tour includes the twin cannon turret, which is still operational. You can even try to turn it around yourself. You can also book a team building or a birthday party for your children at the fortress. All 3 activities can be with English-speaking guides. We hope to see you at the fortress here sometime soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.